It was sometime in 2007 that David Day turned up to my then Norwood studio to record a TV commercial for Stepney Salvage. He not only did the job, but whilst there, talked about an idea he'd been kicking around. He was looking at setting up a chapter of something that was happening interstate, all in aid of an organisation we would come to know as Support Act. He was looking at setting up a South Australian chapter, and he wanted my opinion. My response was, sounds good to me. And so began a 10-year journey which brings us to today. A mob of likely luncheon attendees had to be found. So Daisy, through his great web of contacts, had a word to anyone who would listen. And so it was on the 20th of February 2008, with a venue selected, that the first ever Deb's Luncheon did occur. It was at the Rob Roy Hotel. Guest speaker for that first auspicious occasion was none other than National Chair at the time and rock and roll legend, Brian Cadd. A lot of you would remember it well. It was a great day, a great introduction, a great taster of what was to come. With the die cast, things were in preparation for lunch number 2, held on the 19th of March 2008, again at the Rob Roy. This time the guest would be Trevor Crook from The Fringe. Daisy was starting to amass a bit of a database at this stage, and an email went out to some likely participants. In that email, I quote Mr. David Day as saying, "The Deb Lunch is held monthly and is a chance for all of us to catch up, get pissed, chew the fat, get pissed, network ourselves, get pissed, and enjoy a guest who will get pissed." And so we move on to luncheon number 3, held on the 16th of April 2008. With special guest at the Rob Roy, the legendary Max Pepper. Once again, an email was shot out. The language was changed slightly on this one. It read, "The Deb Luncheon is held monthly and is a chance for all of us to catch up, have a drink, chew the fat, have a drink, network ourselves, have a drink, and enjoy a guest who will have a drink." Got a feeling Daisy was tapped on the shoulder by somebody. Lunch number 4 was a beauty. 21st of May at the Rob Roy, and we had legendary Angels frontman Doc Neeson. Lunch number 5, 18th of June at the Rob Roy. This time our guest was journalist extraordinaire Christy Eliezer. Lunch number 6, 16th of July at the Rob Roy, featured none other than former Valentine's singer, 5KA creative writer and producer, also legendary manager of the Divinals, the late, great Mr. Vince Lovegrove. Lunch number 7, 20th of August at the Rob Roy. Former Austereo national programmer Phil Dowse was to appear but phoned in sick. So hastily arranged at the last minute, we heard from Tony Savage. We also heard from Irene Petrie in attendance and CBA legend Joyce Washington. Lunch number 8 wasn't a lunch at all. It was a one-off, a nighttime show at the Rob Roy, and it was the No Anchovies performance of none other than Spectrum. And we were so blessed to see, of course, Mike Rudd and the late Bill Putt playing with the group that night. Bill Putt, as we know, has since passed. Lunch number 9 at the Rob Roy, 15th of October, and Ross Wilson was our special guest. Lunch number 10, 19th of November at the Rob Roy. Fabulously attended luncheon. We heard from rock station and live station 5KA legend and, of course, father of Austereo, Mr. Paul Thompson. Lunch 11 was our first ever Christmas show, and this time it was held at the Festival Centre Bistro on the 3rd of December. Guy Pratt, the late Dave Flanagan, the late Vince Lovegrove, and Buzz Bidstrup were in attendance. And our first year of Debonair's Lunches was done and dusted. Our second year, 2009, kicked off at the Rob Roy on the 18th of February. Our guest that day was Masters Apprentice's legend, Jim Keys. Lunch number 13, 18th of March at the Rob Roy. Our guest speaker was none other than ABC legend Peter Gers.
Thanks for having me today.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Peter Gers.
Good.
At that luncheon, an apology message was played over the PA. And that apology was from John Vincent, lamenting the fact that he couldn't attend that lunch due to health reasons.
I've been very disappointed about not being able to get to the luncheons, so I'm going to try and get down there in April, but I may not. I'll just see how I go. But
However, that was never to happen, as Vinny passed at the end of the month. Luncheon 14, 15th of April, Rob Roy. Donnie Sutherland from Sounds Unlimited was our special guest. He rocked up with a plasma and played us a presentation of his best bits and told us some great stories. Lunch 15, 20th of May at the Rob Roy. Keith Potka from Seekers fame and also a great figure in the Support Act movement spoke to Daisy. And we had a guest appearance from Adam Hills. Lunch 16, 17th of June at the Rob Roy. Johnny Mack got his chance to tell us his life story. Lunch 17, 15th of July, again at the Rob Roy. We'd met this fella at the Christmas lunch the previous year, but today we actually got to hear the story of funny man and bass player extraordinaire Guy Pratt. On the 19th of August at the Rob Roy, lunch number 18 occurred, and our special guest that day, with a performance as well, John Swan. On the following month, we enjoyed lunch number 19 on the 16th of September at the Rob Roy. Chris Finnan was our special guest, and he pulled out the guitar and wowed us. Lunch number 20, 21st of October, Rob Roy. Bob Francis, in what would basically be part 1 of his story. We would meet Bob at a future lunch. Lunch 21, 18th of November 2009 at the Rob Roy, we celebrated 40 years of television in South Australia. And on hand that day we had early television stalwarts Roger Cardwell and the now late Lionel Williams, who told us story after story, plus we also got a performance from Roger. Lunch 22, Christmas lunch at the Rob Roy, 16th of December 2009. Our special guest from Antique Roadshows, Hilary Kay. 2010 saw us enter our 3rd year of lunches for Support Act, again at the Rob Roy. On the 17th of Feb, Dorinda Hafner had us in stitches, with great story after great story. On the 17th of March at the Rob Roy, we had lunch 24. Mr. John Bywaters, the legendary bass player from the Twilights, told his story. Lunch 25, 2010, on the 21st of April at the Rob Roy, was a performance day. We heard the story and the music of the Brewster Brothers, plus Doc Neeson from the Angels. Lunch 26, 19th of May at the Rob Roy. We heard the life story of one Doug Ashdown. Lunch 27, June 16 at the Rob Roy. And a future chairman of Support Act South Australia would make an appearance, play and tell his story. Gary Burrows. Lunch 28, 21st of July, Rob Roy. Guitar legend Phil Manning. 18th of August at the Rob Roy, lunch 29 featured Jeff Skews telling his story of his time in the Vibrance and of course in artist management as well. Lunch number 30, 15th of September at the Rob Roy. The late Vaughan Harvey stepped to the microphone and told us his story. John Swan was here that day, Billy D and Dr. Boogie as well. Lunch 31 was a one-off special. Everybody knew it wasn't at the Rob Roy except for one person, and that was David Day, because we had his wake just a few years early, and he loved it. On the 20th of October at the Gov, a sea of people greeted a very surprised Daisy as he wandered through the door. Bill Page, Barry Bissell, Steve Whittam, the Rocking Stones, Pembo, Barry Smith from the Town Criers, all lent their services that day for a very memorable occasion for Daisy. Must make a special mention for the guy who really organised that whole thing, and that was, of course, the late, great Terry Little. On the 17th of November 2010, we tucked in for lunch number 32 at the Rob Roy. That day we would hear from Sandy McMenamin and hear great stories from rock promoter extraordinaire Ron Tremaine. Lunch 33, Christmas time, at the Rob Roy on the 15th of December. Our special guest that day was Brian Cadd. And just like that, 2011 is upon us, and we're back at the Rob Roy on the 16th of February for Gordon Southern to tell his story. Second luncheon for 2011 was lunch 35 on the 16th of March at the Rob Roy. First time we met Richie York, one-time great friend of John Lennon and Yoko Ono. We also heard from the Borderers and the up-and-coming, now well-established, Kelly Menhennet. Lunch 36 on the 20th of April 2011 at the Rob Roy, and by this time, performance is starting to outstrip guest speaking. Guests that day, John Schumann and Melody Feder. Lunch 37, 18th of May 2011, again at the Rob Roy, Guests, Kate Jarvis, and great comic and dear friend of Support Act, the late, great Dave Flanagan. Lunch 38, 15th of June 2011. At the Rob Roy, we heard from Ben Roberts and the Four Tones. For Lunch 39 on the 20th of July at the Rob Roy, it was Music and Magic. Musically, it was Jim Hermel. And Magic, performed by Jethro Heller. Lunch 40, 18th of August 2011 at the Rob Roy. This would be our first meeting of Don Morrison. Lunch 41, 21st of September 2011 at the Rob Roy. We heard the life story of legendary Channel 9 newsreader Rob Kelvin. And we also met Tristan Newsome. Lunch 42, 19th of October 2011 at the Rob Roy. Deltones lead singer Danny Myers. We also heard from Joe Mann-Murphy and Kelly Manhennett. Lunch 43, 16th of November, Rob Roy. Guests were Bush Poet, Bob Major, and Mary Webb. Lunch number 44 and quasi-Christmas show, 18th of December 2011, actually organised for Daisy's 60th, was at the Arkabar. A stream of various performers contributed that day.